What's that sound? It's for amusement only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast. Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. Tonight I wanted to talk about another bingo in the Bally line, but before I did so, I wanted to get a correction out there. Vic Camp posted on the podcast thread and let me know that Dude Ranch actually scores separately on each card. This is a very powerful feature, which was but rarely used because it requires a whole lot of extra mechanism in order to handle scoring in two separate places at the same time. That certainly boosts this game way up in the playability factor, because it just makes it a whole lot more appealing to win. You're not restricted to 3, 4, 5 in a row on a single card. It's pretty cool. Now, he also notes that this is one of the few games that had a cowboy theme. I mentioned that this and Bonanza were the only two that I knew of, and Dennis Stodell sent in a note saying that actually United's Rodeo was a third Western-themed bingo. His Backglass is broken, and he's asking for anybody who happens to have this game, United's Rodeo, to contact him. If you need his contact information, just let me know. So, tonight I wanted to talk about Bally's 1953 Palm Springs. Now, Palm Springs is a game I'm excited to talk about because it's got an almost unique feature. It was only used in a couple other games, which we'll get to later on. But Palm Springs is a single card bingo that has select a spot. Select a spot is a dial on the front of the game that has 7 different positions, which you have to earn by putting in coins. And if you have all 7 lit, you can adjust that dial up until before you shoot your 4th ball. Now, when I say it's a single card bingo, I mean that there is one large central card. It's a grid of 25 numbers. And if you get 3, 4, or 5 in a row, then you'll earn a certain amount of replays. In this case, the game has advancing odds, which means that you don't have a fixed payout for 3, 4, or 5 in a row. Instead, it will score as indicated based on the amount of money you put in, what the machine feels like doing based on its auto-portioning circuits, and based on the features that you've earned. It goes from a minimum of 4 replays for 3 in a row, 16 replays for 4 in a row, and 96 replays for 5 in a row, all the way up to 64 replays for 3 in a row, 200 replays for 4, and 300 replays for 5 in a row. Now, this game has corner scoring, which is exactly as it sounds. If you sink a ball in all 4 corners of the bingo card, then you'll earn 200 replays. Nothing to sneeze at. It's also got 2 separate super cards. Now, we've talked about super cards a few times in the past, but they are essentially smaller 3x3 grids of numbers. And if you get 3 in a row on one of the super cards, it scores as if you had made 4 in a row on the main card. This game also has the ever-popular extra ball feature, and that is after you finish your 5-ball game, you can pay in money to earn a random chance at getting an extra ball. Now the machine will auto-portion this just as it does with odds or feature increases. And so if you've been on a really big winning streak, then the machine will tighten up and it's less likely to award you an extra ball. There's also an adjustment inside the game which will help or hinder your quest for extra balls as well. So you can earn up to 3 extra balls, which means that you have a total of 8 chances in order to achieve your 5 in a line. But in most cases, earning all 3 extra balls is quite pricey. So it's something that you want to exercise restraint with. Now, I'm excited to talk about this game for a couple of reasons. The first being that this is the first game Bally produced in the bingo line with controls on the foot rail. This is important because they used them from here on out, and they became a very important and integral part of the bingo experience. We've talked before about pick-a-play, which are the buttons on the front of the cabinet that allow you to play for either features, odds, or features and odds. This game doesn't have those. But if you think about that, and you think about how the select-a-spot works with a big dial on the front of the coin door, there's not much room for other player controls. And so previously Bally had gotten around that by designing things around a single button press. But as you'll see, I'm starting to kind of do these games in order here. And as you'll see, the evolution of these games is such that the player controls in-game wind up on the foot rail, and the player controls before and after the game are on the front of the cabinet. This is a pretty wise decision because you don't have to worry about any of those buttons on the front of the cabinet after the game has actually started, after you've shot your first ball. So the only thing you have to focus on is the game itself and the foot rail. So the second reason I'm excited to talk about this game is its almost unique feature, which is called Hold. Now what this lets you do is to hold either the even or the odd or all numbers. And what you do is use one of 3 foot rail buttons, odd, even, or all, and whatever you don't select will be dropped, and it will allow you to shoot those balls again. So for example, if you really needed a 6 for some reason, and none of the odd numbers were helping you, or perhaps just one of them was helping you, it may make sense to dump them all and try again. Now the cool thing about this hold feature is it works anytime until the end of the game. So this is a pretty powerful feature that essentially allows you to replay about half of your game at any point. That's pretty killer there. Now, in a recent interview with Jeffrey Lawton, I asked him how exactly this feature worked, because I've never played a game with this feature or seen it to work on. And he let me know that there are multiple shutter boards underneath. Now, the shutter is essentially the board that comes down and blocks the holes, preventing the balls from falling through. At the start of the game, the shutter opens, all the balls fall through onto a board that's hidden underneath and rolls back to the trough in order to be shot. But on this game, there are two separate shutter boards which will essentially slide out of the way over to the side, allowing for either the evens or odds to drop out. Very clever, very, very clever, and they both move in unison to drop all the balls. I'm really excited to see one of these here one day because that's just a really unusual and neat feature. There was one here in Richmond that came up on Craigslist, and I let that one slip through my fingers. The cabinet was a little rough, and it was on one of those angle iron baskets. So the cosmetics weren't the best. The Playfield and Backglass were okay, and it was super cheap. And I totally should have gone and picked that up, but I was out of space at the time, which is a problem. So anyway, let's talk about the artwork on this game. We're back at a resort, this time at Palm Springs. It's a named resort. The artwork on the Backglass is incredibly beautiful. The majority of the Backglass is taken up by blue sky. The central bingo card is yellow, and the two super cards are red. You have multiple teaser arrows which lead up to your select a spot and your hold feature. And then you've got 7 or possibly 8 ladies hanging out at the pool, one maybe in a chaise lounge in the background. The advancing odds, as was typical at this time, are part of the background imagery itself. So you have numbers going on a building in the background, a palm tree, a small fern in the foreground, the back of that chaise lounge, an umbrella, a cactus, another building, and another palm tree. As I've said before, I always love when they do that. I think it just makes the game pop. The cabinet has some beautiful swirly ferns, some buildings, and lots of beautiful blue sky. The Playfield has a great many blondes at the pool staring out at you. There's some other ladies swimming, a mountain in the background, and what appears to be the edge of the building zigzagging into the frame on the right-hand side. That's a very attractive playfield as well. I will say if one of these came up again locally, I would probably snatch it up. I think the gameplay just looks so dynamic and fun with the hold feature, which again was a pretty rare thing. I think there's a total of 3 games that use it, although there may only be 2. Trying to recall off the top of my head doesn't work so well. Well, that's all for tonight. Thank you very much for joining me. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com, or you can call me on the Bingos line. That's 724-BINGOS1, 724-246-4671. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter at Bingo Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram, also at Bingo Podcast, or you can listen to us on our website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.